is an actual carving of a beaver skull. This is a bronze tree. Around here, this was a hybrid between a drawing from Da Vinci's work, where he drew the muscles of the neck and the shoulders. So this whole idea of science. So there's science and art and technology. And Teo Teo comes from one of my favorite musicians in the world is Miles Davis, in his really coarse voice, Teo Teo. And it sounded like he was talking to God, but he was talking to his producer, Teo Machero. I planted a paper tree, it's a spruce tree, and then I cut, it's hard to see here, but with a chainsaw, I cut right through the tree and I inserted 19th century history books. So I did a performance in Buffalo, or in Niagara Falls, New York, at the Turtle Center, where I randomly read the books. I had a stove with beeswax and cold water, and I would, so I had the beeswax melted, and I would randomly pick up a book and open it randomly and read a passage. And generally speaking, it was some colonialist crap. And I dipped it in wax and with water to kind of cool it, and sealed it and gave it out to the audience until I had no more left. When people ask me about the meaning of trees in my practice, it's based on a simple acknowledgement of the fact that I come from another place in the world. I don't belong here, I'm not from here. And my family moved around so much that I don't really have a sense of belonging specifically anywhere. So traveling as an immigrant, as I have most of my life, I am an immigrant. Not having a sense of place or an identity with place kind of creates a gap in one's own sense of identity. And trees are all about place. Yeah. Conceptually, that's what trees are for me. They're about place, they're about also, they're homes for so many things, right? As a child, a little boy in Germany, we lived really close to a graveyard. And the graveyard was full of chestnut trees. And I remember every year we'd go out and pick all the chestnuts and make little things out of the chestnuts, right? So there was always the chestnuts make great little wagons and great little cars. We would stick pegs into them and turn them into little trains and shit, right? So I don't know, they've always been part of what I do. For you, Micron, this is a Sigma Micron pens that are archival. I've been using these pens for over 30 years. And they are so thin, it's like a hair. Just a grid on the sketch, right? And then I translate that to the full scale. Right? And it's kind of based on some of the trees that I find images of. So then you're stretched over, so then your side, and the other side, your back, and then, because you're standing here for long periods of time. Yeah. The reason I put a sponge floor down is because if you're standing on concrete, your back hurts after a couple of hours. So I can only draw a couple of hours at a time. So it takes months to make one of these. If I was to clock it if I was to be able to apply myself to work, let's say every day for 2 to 3 hours a day, I could probably do it in 3 months. But as it is now, it takes closer to 4, maybe. There was a book called Love in the Time of Cholera by Marquez, Gabriel Marquez, one of my favorite authors. And I thought, how about art in the time of COVID? I thought, okay, I'm going to do something just for me every day for a while, right? So then I got hooked, and I just thought, okay, well, I'm outdoors. It's safe to go outdoors. I can do something wherever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want, and I just haven't been able to stop. Yeah, it keeps my place warm. It's one thing I like. I love the winter in my studio. It's my favorite time to be in the studio. It's the winter time. I love putting out the wood stove. Often I'll sit in that crazy chair my wife found in a secondhand store and read. just read and write and
Nice
think.
and cozy.
Yeah, it feels good. It's different than the house. The house is a much more open space, and here I find it's a little more intimate. That's why I did this. I had the open area. I mean, I would love to have a much larger studio. When I built this at the time, I was working in a foundry, which is huge. It was a huge place. I did all my fabrication there. Here was just drawing, thinking, writing, and not much fabrication. As you can see, I've got some basic machines and stuff, and I've got, welding equipment, but I don't, at the foundry I had all cranes and, all kinds of other stuff that would have, and they closed, in 2017. So I'm still rebooting. And heavy investment casting is an older form of casting bronze for lost wax, or in my case, lost wood. Because I take the actual pieces of wood and I put them into forms that are made up of sand and plaster, a combination of sand and plaster. So it's a liquid. And then old mold material, after things have been cast, can be crushed and reused. So it's 1 part plaster, 1 part sand, 1 part what they call ludo, which is the old mold material. That's poured into a form inside of which initially is placed what it is you want to cast in bronze. You pour the liquid around it, that solidifies, you put it inside a kiln, and in the case of burning wood out, it takes about 4 days at about between 700 and 900 degrees. Wood burns at 500 degrees Fahrenheit. So between 700 and 900, we run the kiln until everything's turned to ash. Then we take them out of the kiln, put them on the foundry floor and pour bronze into it. And the nice thing about that process is you can smash away the old mold material and it just becomes a crushable, soft material that can be reused later. But it allows me to get detail that you can't get with ceramic shell, which is what I do at school. We have a ceramic shell foundry. Or sand casting. Sand casting is another process. You can't get the kind of detail I get. So the reason for me not working with another foundry is I haven't found one within reasonable distance where I can do heavy investment casting. In order to continue to do lost wood, I need access to that methodology. It just won't give it to me in ceramic shell. I can get close, but I'd have to show you what I mean by detail, and you probably saw a little bit of that in the work that was at the raft. The hyper detail of the bronze is something that you can't get with ceramic shell, because you have to crush and smash off the shell or sandblast it, and so really super fine details just don't come out. They usually break off, and so they shatter, and or you get what are called heat fractures, and are more likely to happen. So it's not a process that works for me, right? So that's how it goes. Bello ben plum tu bello ben plum tu bello ben ben Apfel, Fichte, 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 Fichte.